Uh-oh. It got cut off, but now we're live. What is up, IndyCar fans? It's your Grid Rival team here for the Indy 500 Strategy Show, the greatest spectacle in racing, the greatest motorsports event, arguably, of the whole season is this weekend. We're super excited to give you our hot takes and get you ready to compete with your fellow race fans and friends in your leagues. Before we get going, quick introductions. My name is Ross. I'm the founder of GridRival. With me today, I have Michael Ursinoli, our CTO, William Laddie, our principal software engineer, and Ryan Booth, our director of business operations. Before we get going, also remember to a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on future shows. I know sometimes push notifications can get a little bit lost, but you should get notified on YouTube when we schedule some of these. So don't miss out. We are hopping into a little bit of a new format this week for those that have joined us in the past. We have kind of discovered a little bit better of methodology to get through the driver list, which I think for IndyCar is going to be a lot more helpful because there's a much longer list um, of drivers to chat about and to think about strategically. So before we get going, quick recap of last week in terms of fantasy salary and price. We had 14 drivers go up in value. We had 10 stay flat and 10 go down. And I have to say, credit to ourselves because uh, the salaries, we've run our Formula One fantasy game for several years. It took us quite a while to really figure out the formula for fluctuating salaries up and down each weekend in a way that made sense. I feel like we nailed it on the head for the first year at the IndyCar. Everything seems very stable, and you seem to have this middle pack each week that kind of stays flat. The amount of drivers going up and down is very well dispersed. So some quick call outs and speak up, gentlemen, if you have any points or feedback on any of these from the last race. You had some big winners last week, six really, that went up in value 1.7 million or greater. At the top of the list, Graham Rahal, Rhinus VK, and Louis Foster. Um, Marcus Armstrong up 1.9, Connor Daly 1.8, Robert Schwartzman 1.7. If you're listening and paying attention here, one of the things you've probably learned by now is there's typically a lot more value opportunity in the middle and bottom of the field. The drivers that I just mentioned, all six of them, the salary ranges are currently between 7.2 and 16 million. That's simply because when you're at the top of this leaderboard, it's hard to gain value. Nolan Siegel up 1.1 million, Devlin DeFrancisco 1.1, Pato a million, and then we have let's see, four drivers up 200K: Palo Rasmussen, Callum Ilott, Jacob Abel, Kyle Kirkwood up a half a million. Stayed flat, Dixon, Sato, Larson, Rosenquist, Carpenter, Castor Neves. Oh, these are all new
Most of
one-off
them did
drivers.
race
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there we go. That's why there's so many
Apart from Scott Dixon, he raced last time.
that stayed flat. Stingray flat, Andretti flat. No, Andretti's this one-off.
But but credit to us, we called a lot of these.
We did.
I think we only had one bad call.
That might be
yeah,
the record.
yeah. So if you listened to us last week, you did good.
So, of the drivers who really at the top of the list, really the big winners. I mean, not even big. Pato went up in value. Kirkwood went up.
Just
Pelosi. Yes,
want to
sir.
address a point in chat first. Sean Kennedy asking, driver values were adjusted post qualifying. No, they were not. We did not adjust any value since the Indy Road Course. Yeah, so when we talk about value change, we're talking about since the previous race. The
Well,
only thing
we
that's
did
changed,
adjust since the Indy road course. We
the
haven't
only thing
adjusted
that
since qualifying.
the only thing that we've changed since then was we added the one-off Indy 500 drivers to this list. Uh, but whatever Scott Dixon's value was the day after the Indy Road Course, that was, well, he was flat. Whatever Alex Plough's value was after the Indy Road Course, it's the same value today. We did not adjust after qualifying.
Yeah. Nothing has changed since the Monday after Indy road course.
Let's see. Down in value. Less drivers down about 10. Way less drivers down a significant amount. So you really only have three drivers down a million or more. Lundgaard down 1.2, Ericsson down 1.6, Colton Herta down 2. Let's see. Newgarden down $1 million. So Newgarden and Herta coming to the Indy 500 with price drops beforehand. That's like a heavy buy signal to me. We'll chat about that. So let's get into the meat of the show here. We have group drivers for this event into 6 buckets of salary. And by the way, feel free to start getting questions and we'll start to answer them as they come in. Go ahead.
Let me get one question answered. Just
Yeah, do it.
Are you guys adding the remainders of the field? They are in the app. If you do not see them, click on profile, click on update app. Your app is not updated. Update your app. You'll see all the drivers. That question is going to be asked 5 times. It's
yeah.
And there are 34 drivers on the list. I strongly encourage you not to take Jacob Abel. If you have him, for the love of God, drop him. Because what's going to happen with Jacob Abel, who failed to qualify, he is going to be treated as though he participated in the event, and he will score 0 fantasy points. And so he will be ranked 34th in fantasy points, and he will lose value. And also, he will not score any fantasy points. So definitely do not have Jacob Abel on your roster this weekend. There are a few hundred of you out there who did as of a couple days ago.
I would also say the last item of housekeeping, I already see a couple questions, and I knew this was going to happen. I'll pass it over to William, but Power and Newgarden's overtaking points based on their qualifying rank.
Okay, let me just adjust the attenuator first. Okay, so we're all attenuated. So there's a nuance here with the penalties that we had with Newgarden and Power, where they had the issue on Sunday with the attenuator being illegally modified. So they were put to the back of the grid, and this was treated as a post-qualifying grid penalty rather than a disqualification from qualifying. So for overtake purposes, we're treating them as though they're 11th and 12th for the purposes of overtake points. They have to finish better than those spots respectively in order to get overtake points. We're not treating them as 32nd, 33rd. This is just like what we do with the F1 game, for those of you who are familiar with that. If you have a grid drop after qualifying, we don't care for overtake point purposes.
And
so
just to reiterate, our game is directly integrated with IndyCar systems. IndyCar is doing this exact same thing.
Yes, this was the guidance that we got from IndyCar as well, that this is a post-qualifying penalty.
Yes.
Great questions. Great answers. Bucket 1, going into the weekend. First discussion point. We have Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, and Pato O'Ward, priced between $30.4 million at the top and $23.1. Let's start with are there any of these 5 drivers who you guys would say maybe avoid going into the Indy 500?
A few stand out suddenly.
It's of the top bucket.
Yeah,
Top bucket.
Willpower.
yeah.
I mean, I think he'll still be good, but it is just he's 26.2. He's starting from the back. I think Newgarden probably moves up through the field a lot better than Power does. And again, this would be a totally different story if qualifying was scored differently, but we're doing it based off official results. And the other thing too is Penske is a mess right now. They fired everybody this morning. Who knows what these cars are going to? It's just, I don't really want. Newgarden is the only guy I would look at probably from Penske because I think he's cheaper and can get through, but Power is an avoid for me.
My nervousness with Power isn't so much his ability to get through the field as the fact that as you start from the back, you do have to make your way past a lot of cars. There's a lot that can go wrong. You could have contact and end up in the wall. I have the same problem with Newgarden. At least Newgarden's cheaper and you stand to lose less than with Power. But I'm not a fan of either of those for that reason. And then on McLaughlin's side, he did destroy the car Sunday morning. Who knows? Maybe he would have gotten thrown out. Like maybe they would have done the same thing if the attenuator were still in one piece. But yeah, that was a backup car. I don't actually know how he looked on Monday in practice. I didn't get a chance. He did not look good.
No,
so
he was slow Monday. I mean, they have time to dial it in. We'll see what he looks like on Friday.
These cars. That's the thing. They spent a month on these cars, and now they have to put one together at the last minute. And so, yeah, they just have carb day, which is like an hour on Friday, I think, to make any more changes. But Like, I think they're just not going to have the pace with that backup car either. I'm just not touching any of the Penske drivers.
Yeah, I think this is where you have to kind of separate being a fan from like the fantasy aspect, right? Is like the Penske drivers are not going to get those overtake points for working their way up the field until they're getting close to the front. So it's just not worth it to sign. There's better ways to spend the money in the app right now, even if you're a diehard Penske fan, and believe that they weren't cheating with these attenuators, and this is all nonsense. Those people are out there.
Yeah, and then I guess that leaves Pelot, Dixon, Pato, who, for my money, are the three most likely winners of this race. I know Pelot, there's been a lot of talk. He's never won on an oval, so obviously never won Indy 500. That's kind of like the last big thing he wants to check off. I usually avoid Pelot at ovals. I am ready to change my mind on that. He looked extremely strong in all the practice sessions. He looked comfortable in qualifying. I think this might be his year to finally do it. The only downside is price. He's by far the most expensive driver. But I would not shy away from Pelot just because of his oval history. I think he's ready to kind of break that.
I agree. I would say if you have Pelot, if you were planning for and carrying Pelot through Indy 500, it's a keep. Like, he's on fire. Hasn't won here before. Is going to have that fire to try and get secure a win. So on one of my lineups, I have Pelot. On the other lineup, I don't. That lineup, I'm going more Pato. So I think Pato's price right now is 23-1. So for like top 5 driver to be like the most affordable there, it's just allowing me the most flexibility in terms of like that complete 6 driver lineup. It's giving me an extra couple $1,000,000 that I'm not having to bargain hunt through the rest of the lineup with rostering Pelot on that lineup, where I'm a little bit more cash limited.
Of the top 5 drivers, I like Scott Dixon the best. Dixon does have a proven record at the Speedway. He's one of the greatest drivers of his generation. And I see no reason he can't be competitive again this coming weekend at the Brickyard. He's at a nice discount compared to Pelot. And Pelot has obviously won pretty much everything so far. But as we alluded to before, he doesn't have the win on the oval yet. That doesn't mean that can't change, but there is also a lot of downside. And Indy can be a cruel mistress. Like, even things that are not your fault, you just get caught up in something and you're out of the race. You hear about unsafe releases in F1 all the time from pit lane. Every release at the Speedway is unsafe. Like, that's such a tight pit lane. You got a collision pretty much every year. If Dixon can minimize the mistakes, I think that'll be good too. We've seen them lose a race not that many years ago from a speeding penalty, like on the last cyclist stops. Give me Scott Dixon.
Going back to Michael's point about having to kind of bifurcate sometimes, what you care about, what you're passionate about as a fan versus what will do well in fantasy. This is, any high speed oval. We see this in NASCAR a lot. A lot of times it's a race of attrition. So I do agree. Experience, I think, goes a long ways here. If you're not wanting to end up with a driver that has a DNF, if you're thinking about this from a more maybe lower risk, potentially lower upside lineup strategy, I think Dixon is a clear standout if that's kind of the direction you're trying to take things. Next bucket, 6 drivers. We got let's see, Kyle Kirkwood 22.8, Christian Lundgaard 22.1, down $1.5 million after last week, potentially on a discount. Joseph Newgarden 20.8, Colton Herta, to me, is a big standout. Dropped 2 after the last race, so he's probably on a discount. Takuma Sato, Alexander Rossi. What do you guys think here? And just viewers, remember, we're answering these questions relatively. If we say we wouldn't pick one of these drivers, we're saying that relative to the other 5 in this group that we're talking about. So, is there anyone here you'd avoid? Are you sticking with the Penske theme and fading Newgarden because of some of the drama and them going into the weekend with a bit of unknowns?
Yes, but I would want to pivot this for a sec. This is our first tier where we have a one-off driver. happens to be one of Williams' favorites.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I do
Sure.
before I let William go with the one-off. Speaking of this one-off driver, Sato, uh, I do have word from Chase Holden. He says that tell everyone that Sato belongs in every lineup across America.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had to pass that message along before we get into this tier. So Chase
buy
signs off
recommendation.
on Takuma Sato.
There you go.
I've watched
Go ahead,
Takuma
William.
Sato race a long time, like going back to his F1 days. He's the classic come home with the trophy or the steering wheel kind of driver. Like he's either going to give you top 5 result, maybe his third Indy 500 win, or he's going to crash. I remember there was one year he crashed attempting to make a pass for the win on like the last lap of the Indy 500. So
Mm-hmm.
he's the guy who's going to go for it for better or worse. And if you want like high ceiling but also low floor, Takuma Sato's your guy. It's amazing that like Rahul Letterman Lanigan has 2 full-time drivers and Sato smoked them both, which
Oh, wow.
I don't quite understand that. But yeah, so of this tier, like Sato, I think has the highest upside. After him, I personally am a Rossi fan. I've been a Rossi fan since the F1 days. Um, Starting 12th, ECR wasn't quite so fast in qualifying this year, but like ECR is never a team to sleep on. He got a top 5 last year driving for McLaren. He is a past winner of the Indy 500, granted on fuel mileage, but a win is a win. And yeah, so I'd say he's my second favorite of this bunch. I've been less enthusiastic about Andretti. We saw Kirkwood and Herta qualify poorly. Newgarden, we've beaten that to death. If you want to gamble on a Penske driver, he's your guy because at least he's the cheapest. But you still have that same risk coming from the back where you could get caught up on something very easily. And then Christian Lundgaard, we'll see. Like we don't really know him as an oval guy, is my one hesitation. But McLaren's done okay, like the back half of the week in particular.
Mhm.
So I think that's my pecking order. Right? Sato, Rossi, Lundgaard, Newgarden, and then the Andretti guys, Kirkwood and Herta.
Yeah. And there's a question in there that is relevant. So Holden asked if Herta's grid start position is sticking, and the answer is yes. So, if you are bullish on Herta's performance, there's a ton of potential for overtake points there, but got to echo what William said. Like, can Andretti pull off all of those overtake points? Just because they're expensive doesn't mean they're going to perform for the 500. And just because they are starting towards the back, that's a lot of danger to have to cross through. So like you're just putting a lot of stock in that amount of money being spent to earn those overtake points. There's probably better money spent elsewhere, in my opinion, right now than Herta for the 500.
I think like talking about all these guys who are above talent driver who are starting towards the back, I think the way they have a good day is if they go onto an alternate strategy and DLO falls the right way and they make up a bunch of track position that way by staying out when everybody else doesn't. Or you get a crazy fuel mileage scenario like the time Rossi won that race 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Andrettis are interesting to me. I'm still haven't completely made my mind up. Kirkwood was someone in those practice sessions that I really expected to be high on. He was on the top of the no-toe charts almost every single session. And then I kind of expected that to translate into qualifying speed, and it really just wasn't there. So that was kind of disappointing. So I think at this point I'm off of Kirkwood. And Herta, I mean, I know he crashed the car, didn't qualify well. It was kind of like I think he said that they went a little extra on the downforce for qualifying, just played a little safer. I mean, Herta might have had the fastest car last year. He was a rocket at the Indy 500 before things went south. Hurt is interesting to me. He might find his way onto my roster for that the overtake potential, and just like I think he can find a way to get through the field. I think he's a pretty good driver, and maybe Andretti has something for us. But yeah, I was extremely disappointed with the way they qualified, especially with how Kirkwood looked pretty good in a lot of those practice sessions. So that was a surprise. The rest of this tier, Newgarden, I guess, is interesting if you really think he can get up to the front, because now it's going to before all the penalties, Newgarden's league adoption rate would have been like 80%. Now it's a little more interesting. So if you really think he gets up to the front and can still win this race, which he can, he's worth a roster spot at 20.8. And if you look at future races, like you have to expect Newgarden to bounce back here. Like he will end the season above 20.8 million. I can almost guarantee it in salary.
Yeah.
So
And
he's
brought up
someone
a really
worth maybe long term.
You brought up a really good point, Ryan. The league adoption stat. So everyone from Kirkwood to Rossi, I think is worth everyone listening to this call to check the league adoption stats for all of those drivers, because I think that's where you're going to have some of the most differences. So in the top 5 drivers, it's probably going to be centered around 2 the most. But I think in this group of drivers, you might see the biggest divergence, and then you might have a strategy call to make to be like, okay, hey, I'm going to take a lower league adoption driver who I still believe is going to perform, so I can get points that no one else will get if everyone else is betting on, you know, one other driver or 2 other drivers to perform. So that's just like a general strategy tip of check the league adoption stat from the driver profile to see if that changes your mind on who you're going to play at all.
One topic of conversation worth having is, how are you guys thinking about driver contract lengths, given this is such a unique event? A lot of discussions we're having are very, very specific to the Indy 500, but are you going to be signing a lot of these drivers we're speaking of for a one race contract, or are you going to continue to say, you know, who's going to perform well this weekend, but who do I trust also for another 3 to 5 races? Because there is some unique things here. Obviously, taking the one-off drivers out of the conversation because you only have one option there. But for some of the others, what do you guys think?
I think my only long-term looks, just because I think they're undervalued right now and should still be strong as the schedule moves on, are Newgarden, like I said, and Herta. Because if Herta does do well, he's going to gain value, and you can trust Colton Herta. Well, maybe you can't, but Colton Herta is a guy where I usually feel pretty good about him on my lineup. He shows speed. And you just have to hope that something stupid doesn't happen to him, which again happens more often than you would like.
Yeah, so for those guys who I like on ovals in general, particularly Newgarden and Herta, I would go with the length of 1, 3, or 4 based on the calendar ahead of us. 3 races from now is Gateway. We want to have them available. We don't want to do a 2 racer and then have them on cooldown for Gateway. And then I say 3 or 4, but not 5, because race number 6 is the first Iowa race. That's a doubleheader. And again, I want my oval guys available for the ovals. So I want them on cooldown for Detroit or Mid Ohio or Road America.
Yeah, and I think last thing, did anyone else have anything on long contracts? Okay, I saw a couple questions in the chat on Scotty Mack. We'll just touch on that because we're going to get into the lower tier drivers here in a second. Like, should I drop Scotty Mack? Like, what do you think of him? If I'm going to look at what happens on Friday, like if McLaughlin doesn't crash that car, that thing was probably the fastest car in the field, and I would be on this show saying Scotty McLaughlin's going to win the Indy 500. Put him in your lineup. If somehow they capture that speed and he looks good on Friday, he is a definite roster. If he looks like he did on Monday, and with all of the issues swirling around the Penske camp, I'm considering dropping him.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of conversation. I mean, now that we're leaving this conversation of the top 10, what is it, 9 drivers we're talking about, is there anybody else that you think you would drop, given the fairly substantial or also relatively substantial drop fee? I mean, dropping Scotty Mack right now is going to cost $750,000 in fantasy budget.
I think Power's the only definite drop. Scotty's a potential drop if he looks like a tractor again on Friday. But other than that, most of these guys are keeps. I don't love having Lundgaard if you do have him on your roster. I think there's better places to spend that money. But again, not like a necessary must drop guy. And I think everyone else is pretty strong.
Even Kirkwood?
I'm still making my mind up on Andretti's, but I'd lean closer to dropping than keeping. But I don't know. I'm a nerd. I can't stop looking at those no-toe times and be like, there might be something there.
And capable driver, but Andretti just hasn't shown a whole lot apart from Ericsson.
Yeah. All right, next bucket into talent driver territory. We got Kyle Larson, 17. That's an interesting one. That's going to have high adoption rate as far as talent driver, I bet. Rosenquist, 17 million. Graham Rahal, 16.6. Santino Ferrucci, 15.2. Marcus Armstrong, 14.8. Marcus Ericsson, 14.3. Let's start with no picks.
No.
Who are
Many
not
no
go-
picks, actually.
Wait, I mean,
Who are
who are
you
not going
avoiding?
with?
Yeah, who would you avoid from this group, if anybody?
Well, probably all of them. Actually, no, it's not true. Marcus Armstrong. I think he's a great young driver, but he got no experience last year. I think he ran he ran almost. I forgot what it was, but he didn't get through more than a couple laps. Ferrucci's interesting. Oh yeah, we're talking about people we don't want. I don't want Rahal. They look terrible. I want no part of that. And then that's pretty much it for people I'm just completely writing off.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, no Ray Hall for sure. Apart from him, yeah, Armstrong was fast until he destroyed a car on Saturday morning. So you don't really know how they're going to bounce back from that. Who else? Ferrucci is kind of interesting. He's the best of the AJ Foyt drivers. We'll see if they can do any better than they've shown already. That's a team that has had ties to Penske historically. They haven't quite had the pace, though. And then if we look at Kyle Larson, I'd say that the real question is, what does the weather look like this weekend? Which the weather seems okay for Sunday. Like the only thing that scares me with Larson is if there were to be rain and they either have to throw Kanan in the car if it's before the race, or if they have to just retire the car if it's afterwards,
Larson
because
will
they have to
leave this year.
prioritize NASCAR.
Mhm.
NASCAR made very, very sure of that after what happened last year, where he missed the Coke 600 because he waited out a rain delay at Indy.
Yeah.
Like they will destroy his championship. That's what will happen if he doesn't show up at Charlotte.
Yeah, there's just too many uncertainties around Kyle. I think Kyle Larson will win a race on Sunday. It will not be this one. But like, again, I will say he looked very good last year. His race got derailed by, I believe it was speeding in pit lane, which was really disappointing. I'm rooting for him. I hope he does extremely well. He didn't look as good in qualifying. I think they went with heavier downforce after he wrecked his car, or not. I guess he actually kind of got lucky. It wasn't that bad of a wreck, but he lost the back end. Kyle Larson's interesting. It'll be very fun to look at his league adoption. And yeah, I will not lock him in my lineup until I know it's going to be perfect weather on Sunday. Hopefully it is. But yeah, if there's any sort of rain in the forecast, I would definitely not want Larson on my lineup.
I like Ericsson the best among the drivers in this tier. Like Ericsson's the one guy that I'm comfortable right now saying, sign him, and it's probably not a bad decision, especially since he had a problem last week. So there's a discount there.
Yeah.
By last week, I mean 2 weeks ago, the last race.
Yeah, the other guy I liked, he qualified a little high. Rosenquist in the Creed wagon. Like, loved the car. Best car on the grid. I love all the Creed references we're getting from the broadcast booth. It's a ton of fun. We've heard "Can You Take Me Higher" like a couple times throughout practice. So
Please
that's been a ton of fun.
We don't need any more blowovers. Please don't take him higher.
But he's interesting. I don't know if he's a guy you can really want on your team. I don't think he's a threat to win the race, and he's starting fifth. I mean, best case, he probably finishes right around there. But his improvement index is not low enough to be like, oh, he's going to score a ton of points here. But yeah, I was hoping he was going to qualify a little worse and then be someone to pick up. But I think he's kind of a pass for now. But I will be rooting for him and that car.
The clear standout, purely looking at salary change, current salary, qualifying position, not taking into consideration practice and some of the data we're going to get from this week, is obviously Marcus Ericsson. He's at the bottom of this tier. He dropped 1.6 last race, qualified 9th. Former winner, so he has experience. What's your guys' take?
And he should score teammate points too.
Yeah. And it also, I would say, maybe has less to do specifically with Marcus Ericsson, but when you're looking specifically at results of the Indy 500, statistically, the winner had the winners have come from the top 10. It's we like to think about the crashes and how much uncertainty there can be in the 500, but typically the top 10 typically have done pretty well. So when you're looking at Ericsson as a value play, starting ninth, I like it just from like a law of averages. Law of averages say this should pay off. This should pay off in some. If you run the simulation a bunch of times, it should pay off more often than not.
Ericsson is a past winner of this event, and he probably should have won back to back, but we won't discuss why he didn't win back to back. But he probably should have.
Any final thoughts on this bucket? Next, we have 5 drivers between 12.5 and 10.6. Rhinus VK, 12.5. Middle of the pack in terms of pricing, obviously at the way back of the grid.
Rhinus VK, absolutely not.
Hard no for William. Ed Carpenter, 12 million. Castro Neves, 12 million. David Malukas, 10.9. Nolan Siegel, 10.6. Let's see. Malukas starting 7th at 10.9. It seems like maybe a buy. Man.
That's an overperformance for AJ Foyt Racing.
Yeah.
That's what makes me nervous.
I don't think I want anybody in this tier.
Malukas is out for revenge after all the shenanigans last year where he's on the sidelines. He hurts his wrist, and then McLaren drops him, and he ends up bouncing around a little bit.
Siegel is also out for also out for revenge, and he's in a car that has a ceiling much higher than 24th.
Yeah, the McLaren is capable of more than they were able to manage in qualifying. I think Siegel's going to have a solid day and make his way up the field, and then we see what happens. Yeah, he's an intriguing choice for sure. Having failed to qualify last year, despite, it wasn't for lack of effort. Like, he drove the wheels off the car that he had last year. Mm-hmm. The car just wasn't fast enough. I think he wants more. So he's interesting. Elio Castroneves, I think, is interesting. Meyer Shank, their cars are faster. Elio Castroneves is the first 50-year-old in the race in 25 years. I read that last night. The last 50-year-old was Lynn St. James back in 2000. So some people might argue, well, Father Time is undefeated. You know what? Elio Castroneves just a few years ago became only the 4th driver to win this race 4 times.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to count out a 4-time winner. I think Castroneves improves among this bunch. I think Castroneves is probably the most interesting, and then Siegel, and then Malukas, and then Carpenter, and I'm not touching Rhinus VK. I'm not.
Yeah, that car was,
his teammate failed to qualify, and VK was lucky to qualify, and if there were 35 entries, I don't think VK would be in the race. I'll put it that way. But
it was
luckily, there were only
electric.
34.
It was an electric last 5 minutes of last chance when
it was.
Took his time off the board.
They tried to bump themselves out.
Let's see. Next tier, 6 drivers. We got Connor Daly, 9.6. I'm guessing that's going to be a hot pick. Christian Rasmussen, 8.7. Robert Schwartzman, first place.
The pole sitter.
Is it the first rookie pole sitter or just first in a long time?
First one in decades.
83.
Oh, wow. Yeah, geez Louise. Kiff Dog, 8.1. Ryan Hunter-Ray, 8 million. Louis Foster, 7.2. Connor Daly starting 11th. Schwartzman first, obviously. Kiff and Simpson 13th. Thoughts on this tier? Who are you grabbing?
It's kind of like you kind of have to take Schwartzman to see what happens at 8.5. One thing I will say, it is a gamble, but I will say if you watch his post, this is not data, it's qualitative, not quantitative data here. He's loving the car on the track.
Mm-hmm.
His post race.
There's an asterisk there. I'll let you finish. You go ahead and finish, then I'll do my Schwartzman talk after.
I'm here to have a little bit of fun. And I think putting Schwartzman on your lineup for 8.5 is a little bit of fun. Do I think he's going to win the Indy 500? No. Do I think he will survive the Indy 500?
Do you think he
Yes.
will? Do you what percent chance would you give him of beating Connor Daly?
See, but close to zero, about zero. But I talked about Prema after Long Beach when we got to like be near their pit area and like just how much drip they have like in there. There's just like a confidence
For
from
sure.
like there's a confidence that comes from that team that you can't feel unless you're around them.
Yeah. William, who's your pick?
I was going to let Ryan go next. Like he
Oh,
had a
go, Ryan.
Schwartzman take.
Yeah, so we'll start this off. That was awesome. Like Schwartzman taking the pole was awesome.
Yeah.
He was fast in practice. He's fast. Like, the guy is fast. He's fast in clean air. He looks comfortable in his car, and he said he loves his car in clean air.
Mm-hmm.
I was not impressed at all anytime I saw him running in practice, trying to run in line. When he would let someone pass him, it just looked uncomfortable. I don't think he's going to run well in traffic. He's not going to lead this race wire to wire. This is not Monaco F1.
Yeah.
If this was Monaco, then yeah, Schwartzman's going to win the race. He just doesn't look that comfortable like surrounded by cars, and he's going to be surrounded by cars. He's going to be surrounded by a lot of guys who are just maybe faster than him, have experience in this race, are going to be going by him. I think Schwartzman's going to cause a wreck. I hope he doesn't.
Oh my God,
I
Ryan.
think he's going to have some problems here. And I don't know if anyone watched too. His pit crew is not up to standards of a top tier IndyCar pit crew.
Oh,
That
I
you
think
said
he's
that.
gonna
Watch
have-
them win on Friday.
Maybe they will. Who knows? But like, I didn't get any confidence watching his pit crew. I think he's going to lose spots on pit lane. Even if he's able to keep his car up front, he's going to lose those spots and be back in traffic. It's his first ever oval race. I'm rooting for him. It's a great story. He's awesome, and what he's done so far has been so much fun to watch. But I think he might be in for a rough Sunday. I do hope I'm wrong, but I just saw a lot of red flags there. And we'll see. But that is where I fall on Schwartzman.
There's a lot of clean air when you're starting in first.
You gotta make a lot of pit stops, and you got guys behind you who are very fast.
Yeah, unfortunately, like somebody will get the draft and pass you at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
As
think he's
far
holding
as,
off like Alex Palou or Pato O'Ward in the
No.
final laps if he's somehow ahead still? Like
No,
no.
I'm playing into the storyline with him. Like there's a non-zero chance I'm not running Schwartzman. Like I'm running Schwartzman on some of my lineups for sure. Like
Holden Dipple asked, what about playing him just for the potential
The leading laps going into
led
the
points?
first.
Yeah.
I don't like that because that's only a handful of fantasy points.
Mhm.
I don't think it's worth it. Like to take somebody because they might lead a lap. I forget how many points that is. I think that's maybe a couple points. It's based on a percentage of the race that you lead.
Jeff asked, what about improvement points?
Improvement points. We can talk about improvement points. So if you go into the app, every driver has what we call the improvement index. Improvement points are based on finishing higher than that number. And what we did was we gave every driver a rank at the start of the season. And as we've had races, we've started to fill out their average finish. It's an 8-race average. It's the first 5 races plus 3 races of whatever their initial position was in this case. The one-off drivers, what you see is the ranks that we gave them. I think the lowest rank we gave anybody was 20th among the one-off drivers. And if you finish better than that, you get improvement points. As far as this group of drivers, I say hold on to your hollyhock. I say Connor Daly, little nod to his father, Derek Daly, an Irish F1 driver years ago, turns TV pundit. Yeah, I like Daly. I said this on our St. Petersburg show. I like Connor Daly at Indy, and here we are at Indy, and Connor Daly has not let me down. And yeah, he's my favorite of this group for sure.
Now, if
after
we're
that-
talking, go ahead.
I'll give my Schwartzman take next. Like Ryan said, he's great in clean air. You don't get to race in clean air all day on Sunday. That's a problem. I think that there's at least a 50% chance that he crashes because a lot of rookies crash in this race. That's just the reality of it. And I'll have to, that said, a week ago, they get to practice. Prima gets to practice. They're still assembling that car. And my take on the spot was Schwartzman's going to be the bump. And I was like the maximum amount of wrong there. I thought Schwartzman was going to be the bump. And here he is on pole with a car that's fully assembled and has remained fully assembled the entire time, unlike some more experienced drivers.
They said that they don't even have a backup car. He did all
yeah,
of this ripping it without like they were like, if you wreck, we're screwed.
Yeah,
and he was still putting it out.
We haven't got another
awesome.
car. Yeah, so I mean, like they barely assembled the cars that they had for Tuesday, apparently. So anyway, yeah, Schwartzman is an interesting choice, and the downside is no potential overtake points there since he started from pole. Obviously, he'd score a bunch of improvement points if he can have a good day, but I think that's a pretty big question mark. It's tough to put together a solid 500-mile race, especially when you've never been on an oval. Rasmussen, I'm not so enthusiastic about. Like ECR, usually they can gain some spots, probably. The one-off drivers, Ryan Hunter-Reys are only one-off in this group. I'm less interested in him. He did win this race a number of years ago, driving for Andretti. I haven't really seen anything too encouraging from Dreyer and Reinbold between him or his teammate. Kiffin Simpson, he's pretty underpriced. Like he's found the pace. Like I'm really impressed with Kiffin Simpson. A year ago, people were saying he's just another pay driver and he's sitting in a Ganassi car, just like Jimmy Johnson was a few years back. Simpson's really put it together, and I'm impressed. And one of these weeks, they're going to put together a solid entire race and not have any problems. And that's going to be a massive point haul. So if we want to gamble in this tier, I really like Kiffin Simpson as well as Daly. Foster.
Kiffin, to me, has the biggest gap on the grid between the potential ceiling of his car compared to his teammates.
Yeah, his teammates are on the podium every week. So the car is capable of being on the podium every week, and Simpson is getting a lot closer to that achievement. And to finish my point, I'm not a fan of Foster. Rahal Letterman has not shown much outside of Sato. His name escaped me for a moment. So yeah, of this group, give me Connor Daly, give me Kiffin Simpson. We can gamble on Schwartzman, but don't be too surprised if he doesn't finish the race.
Yeah, and I think Hunter Ray is probably just a toss out. I don't know why he would find a way on someone's lineup. Go with Daly for only a little bit more. Go with Schwartzman for the potential upside. And then I think we owe it to Chase to at least mention, Kiff Dog. We'll just call him Kiff Dog. I don't really know what to say about him, but we got to say Kiff Dog at least once. I think every show we're contractually obligated. And then we also, I think, got to talk about how Foster's mustache still looks phenomenal in all the driver pictures. So that could give him a little boost on Sunday. So there you go, Chase. We got two of your guys in the show a little bit.
I was going to do the Chase shout out. I'm glad you did it.
That may be the source of his power, that mustache.
We ready for the last tier?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Jack Harvey, 7 million. Devlin DeFrancesco, 6.8. Your boy Stingray Rob Ryan, 6.7 million, 17th, qualifying highest of the lowest. Marco Andretti, 29th. Callum Ilott, 21st. Jacob Abel will not be racing, unfortunately, for him. So we got 5 drivers really to choose from. Ryan, talk to us about Stingray.
I feel bad. This is Michael's guy too. I guess I don't know what to say about Stingray. I think I don't have much of an opinion. He does have God on his side, so that's something to consider. Maybe that'll help him avoid wrecks or give him a little extra burst of speed. This whole tier is kind of like take your pick and hope your guy avoids the wrecks, essentially. I don't see anyone down here that I'm dying to roster.
Let's pause for a sec. We will continue by answering. Let's assume we have to take someone from this tier. We'll answer that next. But I think it is worth mentioning with the way, I mean, there's so many drivers to choose from. You could for sure not pick someone from this tier. Is that is that a recommended strategy that we would be pushing?
I
Is
did
it,
both.
what was that?
I did both.
Okay.
So in one of my lineups, my top two performing IndyCar lineups, I actually have Devlin on one of them because I wanted to carry forward into Indy a very, very cheap driver so that I could afford to pay drop fees and I could afford to move around my lineups in the event that I needed to. Spoiler alert, I had some Penske's in there, so I'm paying some drop fees. So I'm carrying forward Devlin on one of my lineups. And as of right now, I'm not dropping him. It's affording me a lot of flexibility in the rest of my lineup, having someone from the cheap driver. And it just worked out that Devlin had a good result for the grid, so I'm not going to drop him. But I would say like in this grid, I'm really just looking at Devlin just because I had him already and he qualified well enough. But I would say it's like on my other lineup, I have no one from this tier. I feel better about that lineup.
I honestly don't recall what my lineup looks like at the moment. If I'm picking from this tier, give me Stingray Rob and then give me Callum Ilott. So Stingray was not that far off of Connor, his teammate. So you at least have that. There's some pace, and we've seen Stingray have a good result or two in this first part of the season. And Callum Ilott's teammate took pole. Ilott has more experience on the oval. He's been through a month of May. Like he's done a few of these races. He'll probably be a little bit more comfortable in traffic if Prima can get the setup right. Maybe there's some potential for Ilott to have a result and also to gain value. Currently ranked at the bottom in terms of value among the full-time drivers who are actually racing. So yes, Stingray Rob and Callum Ilott are who I like the best, and then probably if I have to pick, probably Jack Harvey. DeFrancesco driving for Ray Hall Letterman. Again, they've struggled this month. Um, that's a concern, and Andretti's been a mess. And yeah, I was hoping to see more from Marco Andretti, and in fact, that was sort of an interesting storyline on Sunday in the last row shootout. We were either going to have a full timer miss the race, or we were going to have the Andretti curse, and we avoided the Andretti curse so far. That said, Marco Andretti's starting 29th. If it's overtake points you want, Andretti's your guy. Like if he finishes mid pack, he's going to get like 14 spots worth of overtake points. And I think there's a reasonable chance he keeps the car in one piece. So we can throw Marco on that list as well. I put maybe Marco third on the list in that tier.
You're making me second guess not dropping Devlin. I made one. It was a good call because I put him on a 2-race contract. I already made 1.1, and I was like, let the good times roll. Like, let's.
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably go with Ilott over Devlin. He's cheaper. We've seen him on this track before. He had a pretty strong finish last year. So and he's starting a few spots back. Like I think he probably finishes ahead of DeFrancesco, and he's going to have more of the overtake points. I believe their improvement indexes are, I have to imagine, similar. They both have not been anything special this year, and they've been about similarly priced all year. So
We got 10 minutes left. We want to end with our $100 million power team. Start from fresh.
I don't want willpower.
I meant pick a team, combined efforts. If we had we simulate, we're brand new to a league. We had $100 million. Who are we adding?
I think Pato's probably the number one ad. I think he is the most likely race winner, and he's 23 million. So that's who I would vote for is like the
William
top
Michael.
tier guy.
Would you agree?
Starting with $100 million line, and also this lineup will apply to anyone who's like sub 110 because you could just upgrade a little bit in the mid pack here. But I got to agree with Ryan here. If I'm starting fresh at 100 million, or I have a lineup even close to 105, I'm putting my chips in the Pato bucket.
William?
I'm gonna say Scott Dixon.
Hmm.
As far as my driver in that top tier. We'll see if my numbers work after this.
All right. Well, we're gonna go Pato for this exercise. How many contracts are we going?
I'm going
Five.
long.
I think
I'd
he's
go-
undervalued.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
going
go
4 or
five.
5. Yeah,
I'll
go 5.
for sure. Okay, that leaves us with 76.9. Who do we have from the next bucket, or which of the next buckets are we choosing from? Are we taking two? We got 22 to 18.5. Sounded like generally not New Garden. There was some. I mean, Sato's obviously a lot of love for Sato here so far on the show. You can only pick him for one race. So if we're taking him, there's no debate there.
I like Sato for one race here. I do.
We have to put him on because of what Chase said.
Oh, that's right. True. Yeah, we have to put Sato on.
Yeah. Sato would be one of my choices as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that leaves us 57.9, 4 drivers to go. Let's see, third bucket, we got Larson, Rosenquist, Rahal, Ferrucci, Armstrong, Marcus Erickson. I felt like there wasn't a lot of, Rosenquist is starting 5th.
Erickson.
I like Erickson the best in this tier.
Yeah.
14.3, dropped 1.6. So how many races would we be adding him for? I'd be going like 3 probably.
I think the question is, do we want him for Gateway or not? And if the answer is no, I take him for 2 races or 4.
Okay.
Or 5. If I do want him for Gateway, which is the next level after Indy, like 3 plus. Yeah. At this point, if I'm building lineup, I tend to go bottom up. Like I tend to look at everyone like below 12 million or so, see if there are any gems, and try and fit a lineup around them.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
We can come back to the talent driver tier at the end. Then we have 57.9 in 8 minutes.
I like Connor Daly.
Yep. 9.6, 1.8 million up. Connor for sure seems like a discount for the Indy 500.
1 race.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
That's
I
what
pick
was
him
gonna
up
say.
again at Gateway.
I like that. That leaves us, what do we got? 9.6. That leaves us 48.3. I always love Siegel. I feel like Siegel's always has the potential, but who else? I mean,
I'll point out at 48.3 with 2 drivers left, we can actually get another top driver if we want.
We can. Yeah. But I would go Siegel or Simpson because both of those I would take a little bit long. I'm going longer than 1 race.
Fantasy wise, I like Simpson better.
Yeah.
That's Siegel's a solid driver. If you're telling me from the fantasy standpoint, like
Kiff saves you 2.5 million though.
Which I'll take right now so I can get someone else up top. So I would go
how many races?
I'm going 3.
I'm going 2.
Okay.
2? We'll go with William then.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold on him as an oval guy yet.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's about Gateway. Like do
Yeah.
I want him for Gateway? I'm not dying to have him for Gateway.
Let's see. That leaves us with 40.2. 2 drivers left. We got to get someone in the talent tier.
2 drivers left. We have 1 driver left.
Daly's the talent driver.
Well, did we decide on Erickson?
We haven't decided on our talent driver yet. We have one spot left. We have 40 million, right?
40.2. I thought
Okay.
we only picked 4. Who am I missing? I got Award.
Sato. Erickson.
Okay, so we
Daly,
did.
Simpson.
Sorry, I thought we didn't agree on Erickson. I thought we were coming back to that. Okay, so 40.2. I mean, yeah.
Dixon.
Okay.
That's my opinion, at least.
Mm-hmm.
How many races? I would go 4 to 5.
Give me 5. Yeah, give me 5. Give me 5
Yeah.
with Dixon. This is a value play.
Okay. So just to throw it out, that leaves us with 13.7 in the bank, unless I did some seriously wrong math. Let me double check it. We got
That sounds
Dixon at
right.
25. Let's see, 26.5. We got Award 23.1. Sato at 19. We got Erickson at 14.3. Daly 9.6. Kiffin Simpson 8.1. Oh no, that's 100.6. I did something wrong. So
It's
we're
100.6 million. So we have to make a downgrade somewhere.
I don't want to get rid of Dixon now, though. So,
I think
Sorry, Erickson.
yeah.
so who
I'll swap Erickson for Castro Neves. We only need 600K.
Yeah, that'll get us
I'll
there.
take Elio Castro Neves over Marcus Erickson, and then
All right.
yeah, talent drivers are a remaining question, and I think there
Daly.
are two viable choices. Yeah, Connor Daly is one of them. I think Kiffin Simpson's the other one, and I think I like Daly better.
So
I never
final,
thought I'd be picking a Junko's car over a Ganassi for that.
yeah. Final lineup from your grid rival team going to this race. If you have a blank slate, Scott Dixon 5 million. Sorry, 5 races. Pato Award 5 races. Sato, Castro Neves, and Daly for 1 event. Kiffin Simpson for 2. We did not discuss which of those 3 we would be picking as our talent driver. I feel like Daly to me is the standout.
Yeah, Daly, then Simpson, then Castro Neves. If you're picking among those 3.
We have one final question, and then we will call it a day. Super NASCAR fan says, wait, if Power in Newgarden is scored from 11th and 12th, would that make Marco Andretti? Would that?
Now Marco Andretti is still going to be 31st. So the overtake points are going to be based on where they qualified before the Penske penalties.
Yeah, so
So
everyone
Renus
below
BK
12th.
qualified last. He's going to be 33rd.
Yeah, everyone below 12 kind of gets 2 free spots.
Two free
essentially.
overtakes. Don't screw
They'll
it up.
probably they'll mostly likely get overtaken anyway. But yeah, like if you see, just add 2 to everyone's grid position who was above Power in Newgarden. And yeah, and if anyone in the chat wants, I put together the actual winning lineup for 98.6, and it's Pato, Herta, Daly, Dixon, Erickson, Ilott with Daily talent. So
that's not a bad choice.
That's a
either.
good one, too.
98.6, and that will win you your league. So go with that one.
Whatever you do not take Abel. You're going to get 0 points. And you're going to lose value. That's just another reminder.
Yep.
You
Oh,
won't
wait.
wreck out though.
William, we said we promised you to tell people about this. Iowa is 2 races.
That's right.
It's 5 races away. So if you're signing a 5
it's
race,
6 races away.
So yeah. So well, the doubleheader is the 6th race.
The first race of the doubleheader is race number 6.
Yes.
So we have Indy, Detroit, Gateway, Road America, Mid Ohio, Iowa, 6 and 7. So keep that. If you sign somebody up for 5 races, you're not going to have them for the first Iowa race. And then we are treating them as 2 separate races, 2 separate sets of fantasy points entirely. What we're going to do is, as soon as we have the Iowa 1 results in and scored, we're going to lift lockdown, and you're going to have a window to make any changes you need. If your lineup becomes incomplete again, if that's an issue, just watch your contract lengths. If you don't want to be doing something Sunday morning, just make sure that your contracts are aware. But that's a problem for a couple weeks from now, though.
But we are going to bring it up on every live stream from now until then that Iowa is 2 races.
Yeah, the read between the lines there on getting locked out of Iowa is make sure you don't sign Newgarden to a 5 race contract.
Yeah, don't take your Oval guys for 5 races. We want them for Iowa, especially Newgarden.
Closing thoughts, any of them?
My favorite weekends of the year. Let's go.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a fun weekend.
I'm
Monaco
so
GP
excited.
Also, Indy Coke 600.
Yeah, and it's going to be really exciting to see. It's always fun to have what is expected to be a top car at the back of the field, getting to watch Power and Newgarden try and carve through traffic. And who knows what those cars are going to look like. They all lost everybody on the team. Like, I actually have no idea what to expect from the Penske's. And I'm really interested to find out what will happen.
It's worth noting, like 2 of the guys who got fired today, they were suspended for last year's Indy 500 when they got caught cheating last year at St. Petersburg. So they've done this without Cindric before.
And I think final thought, everyone go around and give your winner. And I think we can sign off here.
Yeah. Will there be salary changes between both Iowa races? Yes. Like it's just like any other race.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, winner picks.
On that note, it is time to end.
Wait,
we thank you.
Winner picks.
No, we want winner picks.
Oh, winner
Everybody
picks.
give a quick winner.
Ooh,
Give a quick
man.
winner.
I'm going Pato.
Dixon.
I'll say Pillow finally gets his oval.
There you go. We'll check back next week. Thank you all for joining. We appreciate your participation and continue to support the platform. Enjoy the greatest spectacle in racing. Enjoy one of the most or the busiest weekends in racing. And we will see you at the next show. Thank you so much. All right.